Can you please do a video of the full detail about the
program, such as how to get into the program? Did you do a third party or do a school? How much did it cost for the program?
I really want to do the program next summer. I know this video is kind of delayed, but better now than never, am I right? My bangs are messed up. Fuck! In this video, I'm going to walk you guys on how I was able to study abroad in the Yonsei International Summer School and things I wish I knew, tips and tricks, the process of doing so. So yeah, I have all my notes on my computer right here, so if I'm looking down a lot, you know why. Also, I don't want to hear a single one of you guys talking about my appearance. I'm trying something new. First things first, the application. Now, I go to UCLA and all UCs have this program called UCEAP. Now, I applied through the UCEAP website all the way back in November while I was in class. So application doesn't really take that long. Once you fill out your application, you get an email a couple weeks later being like, hey, you got in, continue on with the process. Once you get in through UCAP, you have to complete another application, but this time on the Yonsei's official website. But if you're not part of any program, then you just apply individually on the website, and you should get your results back within a week or two. However, if you're applying through a program like me, you will get your results back super late. Because Yonsei wants to do all the individual applications first and get that out of the way, then they do all program applications all at once. I remember I was freaking out back in winter because I submitted my Yonsei application and I was hearing nothing for like a month. I thought I got rejected. I thought my application got lost or something. And then I heard other people from the UCAP program freaking out because the same thing was happening to them as well. They were also desperate and scared to the point where they DM'd YouTubers. I totally didn't do that. So I'm here to tell you scholars that if you apply through a program, your application will be delayed because it's all going to be together as a group. So stop freaking out, everything is fine. If you're applying individually, you have the option to be in the Yonsei's 4-week program or 6-week program. For UCEP students, you're automatically enrolled in 6-week. Also, you're automatically enrolled in Early Bird, which Early Bird applications are if you submit your application early, you get discounts and you get priority and first pick in dorms, classes, and all the good stuff. So if you guys are applying individually, I recommend you guys do it as early as possible so you guys can get the early bird benefits. Alright, next up, rooms and dorming. There are 3 dorm options for study abroad students at Yonsei, and they are Won, International House / I House, and SK Global, which is where I stayed. A little brief background for each dorm. Won is, I believe, the oldest and farthest dorm. It is 40 minutes walk from campus and it is all uphill. They provide twin rooms with a private bathroom. There are triple rooms, but they only whip those out when really necessary. And they have a gym, kitchen, store, and laundry room. I personally don't know much about Won because I didn't have many friends who stayed there. I just heard that the walk there and back to school is literal hell. The fact that you have to walk uphill in scorching heat for 40 minutes is crazy to me. I also forgot to mention that a lot of people were finding spiders, centipedes, and cockroaches in Won, so yeah, avoid that if you can. Honestly, if you stayed at Won, I salute you because I could never do that. Especially when it's after shuttle bus hours because you're gonna have to walk through all that in the middle of the night. I don't have many information on Won because a lot of people try to avoid that. The next dorm option is International House, which International House is a 15-minute walk from campus and it's double rooms only. Another fun fact about I House is that it's women only. If you're a guy, you're not allowed to apply, let alone enter International House because it's all for women. Fun fact, when I tried to go in I House with my dad because we were looking for a lost package of mine, they did not allow my dad to get in. They made him wait outside the premises while I was looking for my mail in the I House. That's how strict Korea is with gender policies. If you're found in an opposite gender's room or dorm, then you will get evicted from your dorm. I mean, that didn't really stop anyone from roaming around other people's dorms. Now, the reason why I House is a women-only dorm is because they have a communal bathroom. Not gonna lie, when I heard about this, I immediately tried to avoid I House like the plague. I've never used the communal bathroom and I don't want to because I need to shit in peace. I did visit the bathroom and it is pretty clean and very spacious. If you don't mind communal bathrooms, then, you know, this is an option for you. If you're a girl also, because if you're a guy, you can't stay here. I House has a lounge, laundry room, and exercise room. If they want more amenities such as a gym, Pilates room, and music room, the 5th floor of I House is actually connected to the 5th floor of SK Global, so I House members are allowed to cross over to the SK Global house and use our amenities because we share. Also, I House provides duvet, bed sheets, pillow, and pillow covers. And moving on to SK Global. I stayed in SK Global, which is why I have the most information about this one. so we'll just kind of speed run it. SK Global is located 15 minutes away from campus since it's also right next to I House, so that's the same. It's not only the newest dorm, but the only dorm with a single room option available. SK Global has 187 single rooms and 197 twin rooms, so a total of 384 people combined. Their floors are separated by gender, so B2 through floor 2 is all males, while floor 3 to 7 is all females. And each room has a private bathroom, so I was able to shit in peace. Some amenities SK Global has are a study room, lounge, laundry room, music room with a guitar and piano provided, fitness room with a Pilates room. Next to SK Global and under I House is a tunnel that connects to some classrooms such as the KLI and the new Millennium Hall. And they have elevators with a cafe and restaurants, so I recommend checking that out. Plus a 24-hour e-mart, so you can go whenever you need to. If you want more of an in-depth tour of SK Global, I recommend checking out my move-in vlog. I did a tour around the dorm and the facilities, so yeah, check that out if you want to know more. And for all of you guys are wondering what's the prices for these dorms, this was the price for while I was studying abroad. Housing is by far the most competitive part of this entire application. There are over 2,000 students applying to the YISS program, and I'm gonna predict that there are less than 1,000 rooms available. Because of that, I want to share my tips and tricks for how I got housing, let alone the best housing available, aka a single room at SK Global. Now the number one thing I'm gonna say, aka the most important thing, you honestly don't really need any other tip but this, but I'm gonna say it. Read the manual! Let me say that again for the people who didn't get that in the back. Read the manual! Read it! They will email you guys this thick-ass, giant-ass manual, and you're probably thinking, oh, I don't want to read all that. But guess what? If you don't read all that, you're gonna be homeless. But for all my lazy little folks out there who can't freaking read a little manual, I'll just give you guys my little tips and tricks. First off, do the application on your personal computer. They explicitly state to not do your application on your phone because it won't work. So please don't try to risk it doing it on your tablet, your phone, your stupid Apple Watch. That's so dumb. Don't do that. Do it on your computer, okay? Okay. Make sure to set the language option to the language you're comfortable reading in before you log into the portal. It's really small and it has to be right before you log in, because once you log in, you can't change the language option, so don't forget to change your language, and don't try to do the freaking like Google Translate automatic thing like it's not gonna work. When it's time to start your dorm application, make sure you refresh your screen 5 seconds after the specific time. For example, I had to fill my dorm application at 6 p.m. so the minute it hit 6 p.m. I waited 5 seconds and then I refreshed my screen, and then the entire process was smooth sailing. And if you don't see YISS as an option under your dorm, then you have to refresh your screen because you're too early. My next tip is only fill out the boxes with the little orange triangle. If you don't see an orange triangle, then either don't waste your time filling it out because it's either not gonna work, wasn't meant for you, or they're not gonna take that into consideration.
Oh, but what if it asked what my second choice dorm was?
It doesn't matter. They don't read that shit. Trust me when I say this, they don't care about your second dorm option. I'll come back to that later. And if you can, try to study the structure of the website and how it works, because that saved me so much time and I was able to complete my application in under 2 minutes. Now, you won't know your housing results until like 2 weeks later from what I remember, and it's also in the middle of the night. I remember being so tired, but at the same time I couldn't sleep because I was so anxious to see what housing I got. So I ended up reading a book to distract me. I also ended up finishing that entire book, which was like crazy. Now you're probably wondering, what happens if I don't get my first choice housing, aka SK Global, because that's everyone's first choice? Then you have the option of being put on the SK Global waitlist. However, while you're in line for the SK Global waitlist, they will randomly assign you to either Woojungwon or I House. It is 100% random. You don't have a single say-so or a choice. I heard many people say they put a second choice option for their application, but that just didn't get into consideration. And then they give you an ultimatum. You can either redo your application and submit a new one for your assigned dorm, but if you do that, you will get off the SK Global waitlist. However, if you choose to not redo your application and you want to stay on the SK Global waitlist, if you don't make it off the waitlist by the time the program starts, you are then responsible to find housing on your own, because by that time, all the dorm and housing applications are all closed or filled up, so Yeah. Alright, internships. This section is gonna be very short because I didn't get an internship. However, I did apply, so I'll just tell you what I know. When you apply on the Yonsei official website, you have the option to submit up to 5 applications, in which there are a lot of options for internships. Some of them are on the techie, sciencey side, while most of them, on the other hand, are on the communication/marketing/media type. Most internships, but not all, will require you to speak, read, and be able to be fluent in Korean. And some of them will even test your Korean proficiency by interviewing you in Korean. Huge thing that you guys might want to know about these internships is that they don't pay you. In fact, you have to pay them. Not only do they not pay you while you're an intern, but you have to arrive to Korea 2 weeks before the study abroad program starts. So none of the dorms will be available, so therefore you have to find housing on your own and pay for that out of your own pocket. And to all my scholars who go to a school that operates on a quarter system, their internship orientation will clash with their finals week and graduation, so yeah, that also sucks. Because of that knowledge, I only applied to 2 internships, which was a more Pacific since they were providing free food, and the Yonsei social media team because I would not have to worry about transportation since it took place on campus. Honestly, I'm really glad I didn't end up interning while studying abroad at Yonsei because it sounds like you're paying a whole lot of extra things such as your time, money, effort, and not to get much in return. I mean, to each their own. You win some, you lose a couple $1,000 at that.
You owe me $32,000 in legal fees. What?
We're on top of my kimchi fridge. For classes, at the very beginning of your application, you can either choose if you want to take only 2 classes at Yonsei or 3. I took 3 classes because I'm a financial aid recipient. If you're also a financial aid recipient, I recommend talking to your own financial advisor in school because it varies per school and person. If you're part of the 4-week program, you can only sign up for the 4-week classes. If you're part of the 6-week program though, you can sign up for 6-week classes and 1 4-week classes. However, if you're part of UCAP like me, then you're only allowed to sign up for the 6-week classes. The classes are like a high school schedule where you have like period schedules and you choose what classes you want to take within this period. For my schedule, I took period 1 media psychology, period 2 luxury fashion brand management, and period 3 intro to computer graphics. I took media psychology to fulfill a major requirement back at home, which is communications. In the class, you have a midterm, a final, weekly quizzes, a group project/essay, what else? Oh, obviously attendance. Attendance is very important. If you miss 1/3 of your class, you automatically fail. Now, the class material of media psychology was not difficult to grasp. However, for a 6-week program and while abroad, it's kind of hard to retain, if that makes sense. That being said, I did end up getting an A in that class because I think the professors are very generous when it comes to grading, and they're all aware that most students there are not really here to study but have fun and explore Korea. So my luxury fashion brand management class was not something I originally anticipated to take. You would know that if you saw my first day of studying abroad video. But the class is graded on attendance, final group project, and classwork, which is just a single piece of paper that you fill out and turn in by the end of class. It's not that difficult. As for the final group project, the professor gives you most of the class time to work on, and the final class I took was Introductions to Computer Graphics. The class is graded 90% assignments and 10% attendance. At the beginning of every week, the professor will give you a new assignment or genre you have to work on via Adobe, and you have to submit your work right before the week is over, so Thursday of whatever time your class ends. She normally again gives you class time to work on your projects, and also she's a pretty lenient grader. My only warning is to make sure your computer has a lot of storage and data because my computer didn't, and it was tweaking every time I had to open up an assignment. For our final project in the end, we ended up creating these postcards that we can now ship out and use, so I will definitely be printing those out. So yeah, I definitely recommend taking this class if you're a complete beginner in Photoshop because you learn a lot of things. We're gonna film the rest of the video like this. My camera ended up dying because it has the lifespan of a literal hamster, hence why we had a break. Anyways, on to the final topic of this video, which is 10 things I wish I knew while studying abroad at Yonsei University, tips and tricks, etc.
Let's get started.
Tip number 1, buy a portable fan and bring a jacket before you come to Korea. I said this once and I'll say it a million times, it is as hot as balls in Korea. You need a portable fan because the minute you step outside, you're gonna be sweating buckets. Now you might be thinking,
Oh, I could just buy a portable fan at like Daiso or a random street market, you know, just laying over there.
here's the thing though, honey. They suck. They're super inexpensive, but they're cheap for a reason. They break in like 0.2 seconds, so I recommend buying like a motor fan on Amazon and shipping it to your house, and then bring it with you to Korea. I thought you just said it was hot. Why do I need to bring a jacket? It's hot as balls outside, but inside any building, it's freezing cold. Because it's so hot outside yet freezing cold inside, every time you move from place to place, your body does not adjust well to the extreme environment, especially if you've never like experienced extreme heat like this before. So you will get sick very easily. I, along with so many students, got sick during the first couple weeks of Yonsei. I remember talking to my TA from luxury fashion brand management class, and she said she was shocked of how many people just got sick and were dropping like flies. So take my advice, bring a portable fan for outside, yet bring a jacket for inside. It'll save you from getting a cold, because getting a cold in a foreign country sucks. Alright, moving on. Tip number 2. Go to places that excuse me. There we go. Go to places that have been reviewed by actual Koreans and not by foreigners. Quick story time. Now, after the YISS program ended, I had one more week to stay in Korea before I had to ultimately head back home. And I decided I was gonna film some random things and, you know, make content, you know, one last video before I leave. That did not end up happening. Why? I'll tell you. Now, I told my mom that I had this brilliant idea for a YouTube video, you know. I was gonna do a, you know, staying in a Korean sauna. Like, I had the whole thing planned in my mind. I set a destination, a course. I picked the sauna because it had so many great reviews and I thought, you know, great reviews equals great place. We were dead wrong. Now, it had amazing reviews, but the thing is, it was all reviewed by foreigners, so when we got to this sauna, it was the most disappointing thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
Here's two small
We looked around and we realized that everyone except for us were like complete foreigners, and it was all of their first time at a sauna as well, so they had no idea what to expect, while my mom and I, we've been to multiple saunas, so we know like what to expect, what is provided, all of that. I remember my mom and I just could not believe that like organizations were literally scamming foreigners. But yeah, the sauna was really bad. There was nothing to do, nothing to film, hence why there was no content that week. Foreigners are more likely to be ripped off or scammed without knowing, so yeah, keep that in mind. Tip number 3, go rock climbing. I didn't know this, but there is actually like a rock climbing culture when studying abroad in Korea. So many people brought their own rock climbing shoes, chalks, and like had this whole plan out to like go rock climbing while studying abroad in Korea. But there's a rock climbing gym at Hongdae called The Climb, and I totally recommend you guys check it out. They have membership passes as well for such good deals. I urge you guys to check it out early on while you have the time. You guys can go by yourself, with friends, on a date, I don't know, but it's really fun. Speaking on the topic of fun, number 4, go to an escape room. Not only was the escape room so fun and immersive, but it was like Korean themed. Also, it was Fruits Basket themed. I love Fruits Basket. That's my number 1 favorite romance anime. I remember the game master telling us the premise of the escape room, being like, oh, you're a cat, you want to be part of the zodiac, but the rat like took advantage of you and didn't help you. That being said, make sure to always have a Korean person with you who can fluently speak and read in Korean, because some of the hints or like details are in Korean, so it's handy to have a friend who's fluent in Korean. Tip number 5, buy a mattress topper or bring your own. I remember watching so many move-in vlogs and people were complaining about how hard the mattresses were at SK, and at first when I saw that I thought they were pussies, being like, pfft.
You know, you just don't know the real Korean style where the mattresses are too hard.
Until I couldn't sleep at night. That mattress at SK Global was like concrete level. If you guys need a mattress topper run, maybe you group up with a friend to save yourself some money on taxi fees. A lot of people complained how hard the mattresses were, so keep that in mind when you move in. Tip number 6, restaurants and places don't open in the morning, so you're gonna skip out on breakfast a lot. You kind of just starve until lunchtime, but I hated to go out and lunch because it was just so hot outside, so I would just starve and eat until like 5 p.m. But yeah, to all my breakfast girlies out there, get used to not having breakfast for 6 weeks. Tip number 7. This is kind of a serious one, but I have to add this because it's really important in my opinion. Please drink responsibly. Please be careful. I've encountered and heard so many horror stories of people drinking and passing out and having seizures in Korea. Quick little story time. Thursday 7 a.m. I decided to go to the lobby of SK Global to sign out because I was staying over at my aunt's place. And there were police everywhere in the lobby. You know, I was scared. I didn't know what they were here for. Hopefully it wasn't for me. But there was this girl completely passed out, unresponsive. I think she was either drugged or just shit-faced, I don't know. I know Korea is normally a safe space, a lot safer than Los Angeles, but when you're a foreigner, you guys are the biggest target out there, so please be very careful when you go out drinking and know your limit. You never know what someone's gonna do to you, your drink. You don't know how many scary people are out there or by your side, so please, I urge you, drink safely and responsibly. Tip number 8, take advantage of the shuttle bus. Yonsei has a shuttle bus that not only takes you to your dorm and to classes, but there are even some that I saw that takes you to the Shinchon station. Tip number 9, go to Camello's pasta place. Camello's pasta is probably the best food I've had my entire trip abroad. Their shrimp Alfredo, best thing in the world. I bet Queso hasn't even had the honors of trying this out yet. I repeat, it's called Camello at Yeonnam. Try it. Last but not least, tip number 10. Take advantage of the cool photo booths. I know some of you guys saw the weird photo booth I did in my short. Listen, when am I ever gonna do that in America? One day, I'm gonna look back at my photo booth book and be happy of all the memories I made during my time abroad in South Korea. And that, ladies and gentlemen, bitches and bros and non-binary hoes, is how I was able to study abroad at Yonsei University through their YISS program. Hopefully you learned something informative, valuable, or just something funny. I don't freaking know why you're here. That being said, it is now time for me to go because I am a sweaty mess, so it is time for me to get my rest. Thank you for watching, hopefully you have a great day, and I'll see you all later. Bye!
원아웃 있다가
지금 좀 해 while I'm recording.
그게 아니라 원아웃 있다가
Stop talking. I'm trying to be cute.